You are listening to Vitality with Marilyn, a podcast about health, wellness, and all things vitality. Having set herself free from life routines, embraced a healthy lifestyle, and lost an incredible 90 pounds in under a year, Marilyn is now supporting others looking to live their best life. Here to tell her transformative story and engage in enlightening and inspirational conversations, here she is, Marilyn.
One of the big topics that I want to get into, and I feel is very important, is, of course, nutrition. So want to start off by saying that I feel this is a very personal and individualized choice. So what I chose to do may work for some of you, but may not for others. So I encourage you to figure out what makes sense, get to know yourself and how you can structure your day and your habits so that you can stick with it. I think anything you'll be able to stick with is important. So I am not following any specific diet. I looked into so many. There's so many options. It's a little bit overwhelming. But when I started, I figured, like I said in another video, is that, okay, what do I know? Just decided like enough is enough. I need to get started. So I started with I knew I wanted to increase my protein intake, so lean proteins mainly. So proteins, high vegetables, eat quite a bit of fruits, especially berries, and I do try to be pretty much moderate on the carbohydrates, but on the refined carbohydrates. I know that there's they're all kind of carbs, and I am, as I mentioned before, am very careful with sugar. And in terms of fats, I will track my fats and make sure I don't eat too much of it, but it's everything kind of in moderation. Tracking your intake I think is key at the beginning. While it's very kind of annoying, honestly, to have to track everything, but that's how you really realize what you're eating. So while you're making like small changes or conscious changes based on what you know, when you're tracking and actually understanding the compositions in terms of either micronutrients or calories that you're taking in, then it's that awareness is really, really important. One of the key takeaways that I have in terms of tracking my food is I wish I had done it like from the very onset. I think it was a month or two into my journey that I started tracking, and I felt something was off. I say about a month and a half, because energy level was a bit low and so on. So I started tracking, and I was like so surprised on how low my calorie count was. So it was really odd because I wasn't hungry. I wasn't really hungry at all. I felt like I ate quite a bit, but then, the data is there, and I didn't eat enough. And with consulting with nutritionists and getting her help and reviewing my food logs, and that's the thing too, is when you're logging your food, then you can seek the help, but you need to provide them something for them to help you. They can help you build a plan at the onset, but like if it's not really progressing or not hitting your goals, then it's hard for them to support you. So tracking that was helpful for me, and tracking. One of the key things that I got support on is like tracking energy level and cravings and hunger. So basically, those are indicators that something needs to be tweaked along the way. I don't think it's really I don't think what you eat when you eat it is as important as like being mindful of what you're eating and kind of doing it on purpose. So the way I look at it, so yes, there is sacrifices to do, but it's the weight loss, the portion of like weight loss, while I look at it as a lifestyle change and long term and so on, but the portion that's weight loss is temporary. So I think it's important to remember, like, okay, maybe it's inconvenient. Maybe it's like ordering out would be, more enjoyable right now. But if you're making those sacrifices right now, or that, not, indulging or something, then, later on you're reaping the benefits sooner. I'm not saying that you can never do that, but what I like to do, like if I do plan to be out with friends, I still do it, but like I purposely kind of plan my days or my day around it, and I choose that day is a day that I'm okay with, kind of like not seeing progress, like, or having a few days of kind of recuperating or so on. What I'm not okay for myself is when I don't have a plan, I'm hungry, and then I just end up making a bad choice that isn't really satisfying either. Like I didn't get the satisfaction of interacting with friends and having a glass of wine and having fun. So that's a part of it. And so I know I'm not going into really big detail of what exactly I eat. If there's interest for that, I will share everything. I know there's tons of people sharing what they eat in a day. There's a lot of inspiration out there. What I'm trying to put across is that you don't need to be following somebody else's program like to the T. Some of you may feel more comfortable that way though. Like, if it's all kind of laid out, do this recipe, eat this and that. For me, I preferred kind of having like a loose plan and having ability to kind of choose what I felt like eating at that time. So what I do in terms of meal prep, if you can even call that, is I make sure that I have everything on hand in my fridge so that I can that I have the ability to make those good choices when it comes. So I make sure that I have my proteins on hand, my favorite fruits and vegetables are there and ready to go. I do use a little grill, like a countertop grill, which takes like 5 minutes to grill most things. And this is how I am in no way a cook. I do not enjoy cooking. So everything's got to be pretty simple. But I had to learn to rely a lot less on processed foods, because processed foods are full of sodium, which I haven't talked about, and salt, and other preservatives are not really sometimes helpful for weight loss, like water retention with sodium. Honestly, if I eat salty one day, I'm guaranteed to see it on the scale the next day. It's not like fat gain, so I keep remembering myself. But the fact that your body needs to retain so much water to be able to kind of function and kind of fight the sodium out of your body tells me that it's not the healthiest thing to eat. So I try as much as possible to limit the sodium. But all in all, nutrition is a big topic. I'm sure we'll talk about it many times. But like I get so many people asking, like, how did you do it? What do you eat? And I mean, I don't eat anything special. I just, I don't let myself go hungry during the day. Like if I'm hungry, as soon as I have a sign that I'm hungry, I eat. Cause that's the thing, is that constantly fueling your body is important, to not like have that drop in energy and not having cravings as well. And yeah, that sums it up. But, another piece that I have chosen to do, because it definitely, like, it felt right to me and it makes sense with my schedule, was intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting, there's tons of information out there, so I won't be educating you too much on it. But basically, I do the 16-8, so fast for 16 hours, eat for 8 hours. So I typically start eating around 11 o'clock, and then finish at 7, or depending, like I will, the thing with the intermittent fasting is you can, in my experience, you can kind of change it up a little bit every day. So whenever you finish eating at the night before, then you wait 16 hours before you eat again. And again, 16 hours is what I do. I'm not promoting the benefits of this versus others. Like I said before, I'm not a healthcare professional, but I never really was never hungry really for breakfast. So it worked for me, and there's tons of information about it. So definitely encourage you to look at that. And if it's something you find good for you, great. Mm-hmm. If not, then there's other ways.
Mm-hmm. You were saying, I kind of want to go back to what you were saying before about not having like a strict routine in terms of what you eat. You just make sure you got like the generic proteins that you want to mm-hmm. eat and your favorite fruits and veggies. Yeah. Do you feel like that makes it easier, or does that make it harder at the start when you're trying to get into some sort of routine?
Yeah, well, for me, it made it easier because, well, and I work from home, so it's like depending on, and I have a lot of meetings. So when I'm able to get in there, like for a few minutes, like or 10, 15 minutes, usually it's pretty easy for me because I go to the fridge and I know what to do. The freedom that is, because like I was the type of person, like if anytime I packed a lunch to go to work before, like I opened my lunch, I'm like, I don't feel like eating that, or I don't really love eating leftovers for more than 2 days, or like, you know, one day you eat it in the leftovers. So it works for me. Is it, you know, there's a lot out there that says like the benefits of doing your meal plan for a whole week. Like, you know, you take a portion of your Sunday and you get ready, and I fully understand why that would be beneficial. But that's not what I do, or every time I've been like, okay, I'll block off Sunday, and I'm, you know, I always have something other going on. But I found what I'm doing very like it works for me. And I mean, there's a lot of repetition in what I eat. Like my breakfast or like first meal is pretty much repetitive. Like I'll either eat eggs or cottage cheese with fruits and some nuts and so on. And like it depends on the day, but like that part of the day is pretty repetitive. So yeah.
Are you trying to keep it repetitive, or are you ever trying to think of how can I switch up? Kind of like how I think in the last video you were talking about like switching things up, so it's not kind of, you know, it's like when you work out and they say like if you gotta do different types of exercises or else your muscles just get too used to it. Yeah.
Well, I am trying to spice it up a little bit because I like after a while I got kind of bored and then doing more like a little bit more recipes. But like I said, I'm not I don't cook a lot, so I will throw things together. It is, the thing is when you're tracking your food and your calories and so on, like if you're doing a recipe, it's important to look for the ones that will break it down for you, because then you can track it better. Otherwise you're kind of trying to figure out like, you know, ingredient per ingredient what's in it. Changing things up. And right now I'm in a time of like looking it over, because I am reviewing everything right now, so it's a little bit daunting at this point to like, because I am hitting a bit of a plateau, but like thinking about, oh, this pattern has worked for me quite well, and now having to kind of rethink it. So yeah, I do think changing things up once you found your groove. But what I'm trying to explain is it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't mean that you need to spend tons of time in the kitchen. Like there are ways to make it simpler, and there are also services out there that you could use to have meals on hand, so that like the meal delivery or so on, like that you could quickly turn to. I haven't used any recently, but there's ways. So really as complex as nutrition can be, it doesn't need to be complicated to do this and have success.
When you're getting started with like planning out how you're gonna eat, did you kind of take it all upon yourself, or was this something that you reached out to experts for?
At the very beginning, like I said, like, because when I was at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm starting now. Like now is like, I'm like, today is the day. Like, so I just thinking about each meal, and if it's only like one meal that you're doing better than you would have yesterday, then that's a win again. It's pausing, thinking about what you eat, because you've been eating daily, multiple times a day forever. And it's kind of something you kind of do. You get hungry, you eat. So you just that whole pause and eating and like before you eat and before you put something in your mouth to say, okay, is this what I want to be eating right now? Is this the best thing? What is this going to help fuel my body? And I don't think there's any real like bad food. It's just like, and it doesn't mean that if you're on a weight loss journey that you cannot eat your favorite foods. I would strongly recommend that you look at fueling your body first, like getting those vegetables and your proteins in and so on. And then if you want to eat something like something else extra, a treat or so on, well, at least your body will have had like the substance that it needs and not like substituting it for it. But then the thing is, it's like you'll be full with the healthy food, so you're less likely to overeat on that food. Because portion control is a huge thing. I haven't mentioned it, but portion control, because what I used to do is basically not eat for long periods of time, wait till I was like basically starving, eat a big meal, and then like my body was like kind of like my energy would crash down because then my body had to assimilate all this food. And then do what it needed to do with it. But then like, I think from what I read is like my hormones, like, I was causing havoc on my body, which then like with the weight gain explains the weight gain in some sense. The planning is important, but to me, having that flexibility and like having like everything on hand to make the right decision has been what was key for me. But like, it's planning, but it's not like everything was already decided.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because everyone, I know this is getting to another topic now, but I know people always say, eating right doesn't necessarily mean anything if you're not exercising right, and vice versa too. So are you conscious of that too, like how those two are paired with each other, or you just focus on one thing at a time? Let me get my exercises down, and let me get my food down.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think a nice segue to something else. So I exercise is very important. Like I said, it's part of the basics, right? Like eat right and move your body. I feel like figuring out your nutrition is fundamental, is number one. Exercise doesn't need to be very complex. So it depends on where you're at right now. So as long as you're moving your body and your body's getting some sort of movement, whether it's like walks or stretches and yoga, doesn't need to be exercising to maximize your weight loss. So as long as you're moving your body, because that's what it needs to function well, I think you can like at the beginning you can kind of like put the exercise aside, so you have enough time or energy to focus on getting the nutrition right, at least for the first week or two, and still making sure you're moving. So for me, I want to say I took like the first month to figure out the food. But then all the while I was walking. It's interesting because like the walking, like at first it's like I had these irrational fear, like, okay, I can't walk too far because then I might not be able to like walk back. So I had to progressively work on that confidence that like, yeah, you'll be fine. Like, in worst case, you've got a cell phone and people at home that can pick you up. So I had to reason, like, there's these irrational thoughts that you have to that I've had to kind of contend with. So to get back to your question, because I think at the beginning, getting on track with the healthy foods that you're willing to eat, like frequently or ongoing, that is not too restrictive that you feel like you're not getting what you like, you're not enjoying it, is important. And then definitely as you increase your your exercise regimen, then you have to rethink your food timing of when you eat certain things, because you need energy to exercise. So you have to be more mindful when you eat or when you getting those extra proteins. They're like depending on what the exercise you're doing. So definitely they go hand in hand. But nutrition is in my opinion like the one thing to figure out. So if you're, and I've heard people kind of like going like really into an exercise program, but they haven't figured out their nutrition, and then they're not seeing changes on the scale, and they're frustrated, and they're like, okay, it's not working. But like, you know,
It's not necessarily like it's not working. It's just the way you're going about it.
Yeah,
isn't working.
and as much as we're capable of doing many changes, a lot of changes can be overwhelming, and it's not like most of us have all this free time to kind of just like, you know, focus on that. And the thing is, if you're focusing on something for a while and you haven't like found the solution, and then you have, you know, work, children, everything, like other commitments that comes in the way, then your attention is going to deviate, and then you haven't sorted out your food or your exercise and so on. So it feels like the cycle that you can't get out of. So, but if you focus, just kind of like figure out, and I'm not saying you need to figure out all of your menu or your whole plan, just little bits, like even if it's one meal. For me, breakfast was kind of easy because I don't mind eating the same things. Like every other day I eat the same thing basically for breakfast. So I tackled that first. And then like kind of lunch and making sure, like my thinking is like, do I have the protein, the vegetables, and then, you know, I eat some carbs, but like I'm careful about how much of it. It was like what time of day or so on. But again, like the what time of day, that comes kind of after when you're kind of trying to define things. But when you're kind of getting into a routine, even if you don't see weight loss right away, at least you're like, okay, I got this. Okay, what's the next step and how you can build on it.
Yeah, like when you have your food log, it's not like 2:30 eating this, 6 o'clock.
You can. It's got the option of doing that. And I think like right now where I'm at, where I have to like rethink because I'm hitting a plateau, that's what I have to do is like thinking about when I eat, when I exercise, what I'm doing. So it's more thorough, but like at the beginning, I didn't need to do that. And again, it all depends on where people are at. Like, do you have, like me, like a lot of weight to lose? Or do you like have, you know, 10, 15 pounds and they've been the hardest 10, 15 pounds to lose for like a while. So again, it depends on where you're at. But yeah, the timing, it matters, but it doesn't matter at the onset to figure it out, in my opinion.
Thank you for tuning in to Vitality with Marilyn. Don't forget to join us on social, get involved in our communities, reach out if you have a powerful story to share, or send us a question you'd like answered. Take care for now, and don't forget to choose active, happy, and free.